All right, welcome to Behind Sports. My name is Gregory Scott Reinen. Thanks for joining us. Excited about today's guest. We have Hunter Hillenmeyer, former linebacker of the Chicago Bears and now current CMO of Overdog, which is actually a mobile application that connects the fans with the sports players on PlayStation and Xbox. Hunter, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. I definitely like to get and talk a lot about Overdog and get into the specifics about the company and the app and kind of everything that goes into it. But first, definitely love to hear more about you, get to know you a little bit. If we could get some just a background and maybe talk about your playing days a little bit.
Sure. I was a Vanderbilt undergrad and now back working in Nashville, even though I still live in Chicago. Played 8 years in the league and started 6 of those. But I was kind of a journeyman who never journeyed. I played my whole career in one city, but was never a star, never went to a Pro Bowl, and played next to 2 stars in Lance Briggs and Brian Urlacher, who've been to now, I think, 16 Pro Bowls between them, and Lance is still going strong.
Yeah, he is.
Brian obviously retired this year, but to play next to those guys and to have the kind of continuity we had in the linebacker room especially is pretty remarkable and was a fantastic experience. Got to play in a Super Bowl. Obviously, we lost. We fell 1 game short to Indy that year, but all in all, a fantastic experience for me. I spent 5 of my 8 years in the league as an NFLPA Board member.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also really got a close look at the guts of what it's like on the business side of football. Sat through the negotiations and was actually there with the National Labor Relations Board when we were going through all that stuff during the lockout. And then, like, as the new CBA got worked out, that was right when I was sort of stepping down from my union duties and kind of phasing out of football, with 2010 being my last season. And now, yeah, I always kind of had one foot in the business world, even while I was playing. And now, as you mentioned, I'm neck deep in Overdog.
That's awesome. And I think you're selling yourself a little short on the football days. I do believe you had a couple 90 tackle seasons, if I'm not mistaken.
I had some decent stats, but nothing gaudy compared to the people I was playing next to. So I guess that's just the nature of the beast.
That's right. Well, definitely like to talk to you just a little bit more about that Super Bowl experience you spoke about as well. It was the 2006 season Super Bowl, right? Actually played in 2007, but can you kind of walk us through media day and the goings on, what happens as a player kind of that week?
Yeah, it's funny that year. And a lot of people don't remember this, but early in that season, we were so good. I mean, a month and a half into the season, we were number 1 in the league in total offense and number 1 in the league in total defense. And then that infamous Arizona game where we scored like 27 points without an offensive touchdown, overcame the fact that our offense had like 6 turnovers. That was kind of the beginning of the end. And so we hung on all year and went 13-3 and played great football and made it all the way to the Super Bowl. But we kind of crawled to the finish line to get to the Super Bowl. We had some key players, Tommy Harris being the biggest one, who got a little banged up and just weren't the kind of football player at the end of the season that they were at the beginning.
Sure.
And so for a team that we were literally beating people by 30, 40 points for the first month and a half of the season, to come in as a touchdown underdog in the Super Bowl was strange. And it's funny. It's kind of like the Final Four in basketball. People always talk about getting to the Final Four, and people always talk about getting to the Super Bowl, but we wanted to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
And so I think that when you have a first-time team, and I don't know that we had more than 1 or 2 guys on that entire roster who had actually played in one before, it's hard to fight that mentality of being satisfied with the fact that you just got there.
Sure.
And so the week itself is it's such a distraction. There's all the glitz and the glamour, and you're supposed to be practicing for a football game, and you're staying in a hotel all week, which is a totally new experience. And it's just a strange week. I happen to have the flu. I spent the whole week bottled up in the hotel room with 103 fever.
Man.
And so we played in the only Super Bowl that ever rained. It was just like a strange week to me. People ask what the experience was like. To me, it was just a blur. I mean, from media day to practicing in a college practice facility with Miami lending us their practice field. It was just a weird week all in all, and then kind of a goofy game with the rain and everything else trying to line up against Peyton Manning.
And the funny thing about the Super Bowl is you have, and I'm sure you have, the motions that you go through every single week and during the NFL season, and then they just throw that huge wrench into it with the whole week building up to it, with all the media things you need to do and all the travel, just like you're saying. So it's almost you're preparing a completely different way than what got you there. So that's got to be something to overcome.
Yeah, I think that that's why you see veteran teams win it so often. I mean, you saw it with the Ravens this year. That's such a storybook ending, the way that all played out. But I do think you can point to the been there, done that mentality and why that would help you in a Super Bowl. Teams that have veteran leadership, teams that have players who aren't going to go out until 6 a.m. just because they are in a city with the world's biggest party going on outside their hotel room. That stuff matters, especially over the course of a long week where you should be focused on the task at hand and it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah. Good deal. No, I appreciate the insight on that. It's a lot of people I think don't get the whole perspective of what it's like to actually play in a game like that with all the hoopla surrounding it and all that. You mentioned that you were also on the board for the NFLPA. Can you talk a little bit more about that too, and kind of what was your role and what were your I guess objectives when you're going into those meetings?
Yeah, so the first couple of years you're a player rep, you're just trying to figure out what's going on. You go and you do a lot of listening. It tends to be more veteran guys. I think I was headed into my 4th season. Mm-hmm. The first time I went to to the annual meeting that they have every March. And so that was kind of young. I think it's good to have young player reps because then you get guys with some experience when they get to their 6th, 7th, 8th year and they've been coming to those meetings every year. Sure. There's always a need to sort of educate the next generation on the issues of the union. And it was a great experience. I mean, sports unions especially, are such a fickle, tricky business because the people, the corporate governance, like the board that you would have at Apple or Kraft or somewhere like that, right, are 20-something football players that don't even really know they're in charge. And so it takes a very delicate balance of these people taking ownership and having the mandate to drive the policies in the direction of the union, where the people doing the day-to-day work are actually your employees. And I don't think that a lot of players understand that or really take that ownership. And so it really almost ends up being that by chance you just have to have 2 or 3 really smart players who are great leaders that can take control of the union and get everybody on the same page. And we've had that with guys like Drew Brees, Scott Fujita, Dominic Foxworth. The NFL has had a series of great leaders on the player side that have really done well for the union. You see in the NBPA what goes wrong when things don't line up how they should, and that they've just had such a mess over there. I know that they're trying to work their way out of it now, but professional sports unions are tricky. You could have a whole series of episodes just about that. But in particular, my roles, I'm a big player safety guy. My career was ended because of concussions. I now sit on the board of the Brain Injury Association of Illinois. Right. And that's become a bit of a soapbox issue for me, mostly just because the chance to make like real policy change that affects not just NFL guys, but college, high school, youth sports, is pretty remarkable how much awareness, how much funding, how much everything is going towards head injuries especially. And the opportunity to get some really cool stuff done, not to get rid of football, but to make football more sustainable in the long run. That opportunity is there right now.
Yeah, and I think football is kind of setting the bar too for other sports. I mean, you can see it. I coach my my nephew's little league baseball team, and just the amount of training that you need to know about the concussion symptoms, and if a kid does have some kind of if they do have the concussion symptoms, they have to stay out for X amount of time. So you can really see the trickle down effect as well. Going into the children too when they're starting to go up. So I think the recognition is there when they do start getting older and they're playing football in high school and college, and these guys can recognize, hey, something's not right. Whereas before, everybody's playing through those,
I think the impact that the NFL can have, as you said, the trickle-down effect is probably even more important, because there's only 1,800 people in the NFL, but when you talk about the policies that they put into place, if they can affect what goes on at the college level, the high school level, the youth level, you're talking about millions of athletes.
Right.
And you being a coach and having seen it, we have like 20 trainers and 3 or 4 doctors on the sidelines of every NFL game in practice. It's the youth sports and the high school sports where they're lucky if they have one trainer. So the education and the laws and everything else are actually a lot more important at that level.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Good deal. Well, let's fast forward till today, I guess, and let's if you don't mind, I'd like to talk more about what you're doing now at Overdog. You guys have a really cool concept of hooking up the NFL or the pro sports player with the fan to play any kind of game, really. I mean, it's not just sports games, right? It's all different types of games.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, the most popular game so far has been Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And that's mostly just, we're trying not to tell athletes what they need to do on the platform. There's so many professional athletes who go home and play hours of video games every day in their free time. And we really built Overdog around a premise that trying to introduce new behaviors to athletes is tough to do, but if you can capitalize on existing behaviors,
Sure.
Video games being a hugely popular hobby with the masses of pro athletes, that there's a really palatable business opportunity to be built there. And then you look at it on the fan side, Xbox Live alone, which is the online portion, has 40 million subscribers who pay an annual fee so they can play online. And so, yes, like right now we're focused exclusively on athletes challenging fans in console-based video games, but you could see as a natural extension of what we're building at Overdog, mobile platforms and portable games, and even expanding beyond the world of just athletes to celebrities and entertainers, and really anybody who has a group of people who might be interested in connecting with them.
That's awesome. It sounds really good. You guys have some pretty good names that are on board with you too as advisors, from what I saw. Right, it was David Price, Hank Baskett, Chris Cluey, and Josh Thorrington. From the names that I saw.
Yeah, we have a really interesting advisory board. I just think it's such a fun hobby for so many guys that when they hear about what we're doing, they're excited to be involved. We had a conversation just a couple of days ago with Exhibit. He's a huge gamer, and he's got all of all these hip hop artists who are huge gamers that all play in this Call of Duty team together. Awesome. Interested in getting on the platform, and we're not sure that that's totally on brand with what Overdog is doing right now.
Right.
But just when you see that kind of enthusiasm from guys, it's really cool to be building something where you immediately start seeing the traction and the energy coming back from guys. We've been in the App Store for a little over 6 weeks, and we've already had NBA All-Stars and multiple Pro Bowlers, a Cy Young winner in David Price, UFC fighters, the list of sort of the long tail of the different types of athletes that have already tried out Overdog and challenged their fans is pretty cool to see.
Nice. That sounds really neat. Can you tell us just a little bit about specifically how it works as far as the interaction?
Yeah, sure. I wish I could just show you on my phone here, but so I have the app downloaded on my phone, and I would click on my Overdog app, and it brings up I'm in the system as an athlete. When an athlete registers, if they have a verified Twitter account, they're automatically sort of cached as an athlete, and then they're given the ability to levy challenges to their fans. And so I can put this up here where you can see there's just basically one simple action, a big button that says challenge your fans. So I hit challenge my fans, and then I choose the game, and then it prompts me to take a short little video where I would say something like, hey, hey, this is Hunter Hillenmeyer, the Chicago Bears. Anybody want to go play Call of Duty on Xbox? I could talk some trash if I want. I could jaw a little bit. Guys have gotten pretty creative with the things we've seen come through the videos.
Yeah.
Those go as a push notification to fans based on filters that they set.
Gotcha.
So right now we're still pretty young, so you can presumably just accept a challenge from any athlete. But if we've got 2,000 athletes on the platform, not all of those are going to be relevant to the typical fan. So we allow fans to filter based on what console they have, what times of day they'd like to game, what sports they'd like to hear from. Like maybe you only want challenges from Bears players, or maybe you only want challenges from people in the NBA or graduates of a certain university. You can set your filters as a fan based on any of those things so that you'll only get notifications about the athletes that are relevant to you. You accept those challenges when they come to your phone. The winner is randomly chosen. We automatically connect them and they go play on the console.
That's cool. Is that more of a live thing? So if one of the athletes is, I don't know, has some downtime in the clubhouse, wants to send out a challenge, is this something that happens immediately, or do they set it up where, they'll be here at X time on X day, and then, that's when the winner's selected to go play the person?
We will, in certain instances, do scheduled gaming, but by and large, it's overwhelmingly built around the athlete's going to sit down and play a video game. Why not use Overdog to do it?
That's pretty cool.
So it is very much sort of serendipitous, spur of the moment. A David Price challenge pops up in your phone to go play MLB 2K13, and you happen to be sitting at home on the couch. Why not take him up on the challenge and go play a video game?
That's awesome. That's a really cool idea. Well, yeah, I definitely hope that takes off. I think it will. I mean, it sounds like the idea has complete legs, and I think once you start getting people involved into their fantasy, I mean, this is fantasy football to another level almost. I mean, getting to play some of the guys on there is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a fun experience for everybody, and we've got allies in all the publishers and console makers in the sense that the next generation of consoles, which are coming out, Xbox and PlayStation are both releasing a new console later this year, are built around things that are very much sort of the same state of mind of Overdog. Social experiences, connecting with your friends, connecting with people with like-minded interests. And that's really what Overdog is all about. We'll eventually allow you not just to play against an athlete, but to watch an athlete. If LeBron and D Wade happen to play a game of NBA 2K14 while they're on the team playing, eventually we'll be able to capture that game and live stream it on Overdog so that any fan could tune in and watch. Fans can challenge other fans. We during the NFL season, the week of the Bears-Packers game, we would like to have a tournament between Bears fans and Packers fans in Madden, see who's better.
Awesome.
And we think that all of those things are sort of missed opportunities with what's currently allowable in the console generation that we're dealing with right now. That's
cool. That's really cool. That's awesome. So, and what I'll do in the show notes as well for the interview, I'll link up everything so that people can get to Overdog. It's gameonoverdog.com, right? Is that that's the website?
Yeah.
So I'll link all that stuff up too, and also for the link in the App Store so people can get right onto it.
Awesome.
And then hook up. Good deal. Well, there's a couple questions just like to finish with, if you don't mind. Something we ask all the guests.
Okay.
Yeah, just to get some more experiences from you. We know you've had a lot of them, and we'd like to kind of tap into that. As far as the most outlandish or unique moment that you've had in your career, if you can pinpoint it or generalize, whichever you think is best, definitely love to hear that.
Yeah, I have a welcome to the NFL moment that I think would rival anybody.
Okay.
I was drafted by the Packers, and about my third or fourth day there, I go into the shower, and the only other person in there is the biggest guy on the team. He's like 380-pound defensive lineman named Turdell Sands. And he was just trying to mess with me, but we were the only two guys in there in the shower. And he's got this booming, deep voice, and he says, "Hey, Hunter, how about you come over here and help me soap up my back?" And I managed to laugh my way out of that one, but that was a moment where my face just turned white. I'm like, am I on the camera here or something? Like, right. I think everybody has a few moments in their rookie year where they're like, what in the world have I gotten myself into? And that was definitely one of those moments for me.
That's great. That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. We have a lot of people who are going to be watching this as well are people who are looking to get into the sports industry, break into it, students, people who aspire to work in the industry at some point. Do you have any advice for someone? You played, but you've seen everything behind the scenes of the reporters, the people working in PR, marketing. So I'm sure that you have some really good insight as to advice for someone who is actually trying to break into the industry.
Yeah. I mean, part of that depends on where in the industry you are, especially with things like the agency business. I tell people in that world that you always have to, if you're going to be an agent, you have to have a super, super strong moral compass, because there's so many people that bend the rules and break the rules in that space that right. you better know who you are. You're going to get caught up in that wash. In the sports industry in general, it's tricky because just the cachet of sports and the fact that people think it's cool and fun, you kind of take a discount. If you're going to be an accountant for the Bears versus an accountant for a Fortune 500 company, you're going to make less and you're going to do the same work. And I think that most people might glamorize some of those second floor jobs. And by second floor jobs, I mean jobs that aren't directly associated with the team itself.
Sure.
And for anybody that's thinking about getting involved in the sport, I would just make sure that they're aware that it's still work. You still work really hard, probably even harder than you would in certain other desk jobs, and that the glamour is just a very small piece of the pie.
It's good. That's good advice. I don't think a lot of people think about that. Like you said,
Yeah.
they get the glamour in their eyes, and that's really all they can think about. But Hunter, hey, I really appreciate you joining us. You had some really cool stories and some good insight, and I'm excited to test Overdog and try it out, and maybe we can get a game of Madden or FIFA going.
We'll have an exclusive behind sports game for you.
Awesome.
So
Perfect.
We'll get something set up.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, terrific. Well, Hunter, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon, and definitely like to get you back on once Overdog has progressed more. Even you can have some more information for us, and definitely love to get you back on then.
Sounds great. Take care.
All right. My name is Gregory Scott Reinen. This is Behind Sports. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.